Hey everyone, this is Chris Newman from the spreadsheetguru.com, and today we're going to try something different. I'm going to take a graphic I found on my YouTube feed and see if I can recreate it in Excel. My goal in doing this is to give you guys an understanding of my process on how I approach Excel design, and hopefully show you some Excel techniques that you might be able to utilize in your own projects. So let's get into it. Off to the left-hand side, I've got this callout graphic, and it's turning from red to green based on the bank account balance. And I think we could tackle this in two different ways. One, we could create a look where we use Excel shapes and link the shapes up to formulas and cells. Or two, we could create this directly in spreadsheet cells. I'm going to be pursuing the latter option because I don't want to deal with the VBA coding that would be required to make the conditional formatting work in shapes. So we're going to stick with the cell method for this solution. To start, I'm going to go ahead and create a threshold input cell here. I'm going to give it a name so we can easily reference it in our formulas. I'm also going to create a balance input for testing out the solution. We'll make this value 105 to start out with, and we'll also give this a name of balance to reference in formulas as well. Next, we're going to come over to column N and expand it a bit. We'll type in our header cell, bank accounts, in all caps to match the graphic. And we're going to have to think of a way to get all these dots displaying at the end of the text. Now, I'm sure there are multiple ways to do this. However, I'm electing to use a formula here. I'll wrap the word bank account in quotations, and we're going to utilize the repeat function to handle the periods. What this function allows us to do is feed it the period character and then have it repeat as many times as we like. So we'll have it repeat 1,000 times to give us a bunch of periods to work with. And you'll see this spills way past where we logically want it to end. To visually stop the periods, we'll put a blank value in column O. And I'm going to go ahead and fill in the heading with a green color I like. As a side note, I will be using some of my personal add-ins for formatting just to make this video go a little bit faster. I do have these available on my website if you're interested in checking them out. There's actually another option we could use to handle cutting off these periods. We can right-click on the cell and go to Format Cells and set the alignment to Fill. You'll notice this also cuts off the periods based on the column width, as long as we have more than enough periods spilling outside the desired column width. Let's also go to column M and O and shorten them up a bit. In the image we're trying to copy, you'll notice there's some spacing on the sides. So we'll use these columns to provide padding off to the left and right-hand sides. Now let's link up the balance to our callout by referencing our input cell. In cell N5, we can write the words available balance and give it a gray font color like our original image. And we'll make the balance value have a green font color as well. We'll change the balance value to my preferred currency format, and we'll make the font size much, much larger. Finally, let's add a green border around the box to complete the callout formatting. And we can go over to the View tab and hide the grid lines, which will give us the appearance of a white fill throughout the spreadsheet. Now I'm looking at this image and I notice that the decimals are removed on the larger number. We can use an if statement to give us a different format to remove those decimal places if it's a large number. The formula will start with if balance is greater than 1,000. And we can use a preferred number format with the text function. Now you'll notice when I put 1,000 as the balance value, we've got two decimal places still showing. I actually need to use a greater than or equal sign in the formula. And there we've removed the two decimal places with the balance of 1,000. I'm also going to try to handle negative values. We'll use the absolute value function to handle large negative numbers. And I'm going to go back and grab this whole custom number format rule that I applied to the callout and put that in the text function so I can handle the negative values the way I want to visually. I also want to delete the decimal parts of this format rule to get it back aligned with what I previously had. So let's try using a negative 1,000, and it works perfectly there. Hopefully our balance in real life doesn't go to negative 1,000. That would be bad. Okay, next we're left with adding the conditional formatting, and that's going to require us applying a red color to the callout. I'm going to use my preferred red color, and if you're using a custom color that's not in your current palette, An easy way to add it to your recent colors is to select the cell with the color in it and go to More Colors and hit OK. This will put that color in your recent colors palette and make it readily available for your use. I'll do that just so I can reference this color as I build out the conditional formatting rules. And let's start with the conditional format to apply to the first row of our callout. We'll select a custom rule to start with, and we will reference the 105 here. And I think I'm going to actually use the cell names that we came up with earlier. So we'll reference balance instead of the cell reference. I wish named ranges would pop up here, but I'll have to type it out. So we'll do equals balance is greater than threshold, or rather less than or equal to threshold. If this is true, we're going to turn it red. Let's go into the formatting and we'll go to the fill options. And you'll notice we don't have that recent color option here, but we do have it for whatever reason in the pattern color. So we can grab the hex code from the More Colors dialog box and we'll drop it into the Other Colors dialog box for the fill. And we've got our color there. And that's all we're going to do with this first rule, so we'll apply it now. Let's go test it out real quick and make sure it changes for us. Perfect. And for our second rule, we're going to use red to color the font, and we'll just duplicate the rule and point it to the cell holding our balance. And we're going to clear the fill because we don't want to touch the fill color, and we'll change the font color. And we actually have our recent color available to us here, so we can just add that red color very easily. Now, I can't remember, but I do use the beta version of Excel, so you may not have the duplicate rule button yet, as it's a newer feature. So if you don't have it, you'll just have to start from scratch each time you write a rule. We'll duplicate again because we're going to be using relatively the same logic for each one, and we're going to do the borders. And unfortunately, borders are a little finicky with conditional formatting. You have to be really intent on how you attack formatting the borders because you don't have access to the inner border buttons. And you can also run into issues when the border rules collide with each other. So we're going to start with the right side border for this one. And you can see that worked out fine for those two references. And we're going to go ahead and add a bottom border for the top and bottom of the callout for another rule. So I'll select those two ranges and we'll go to edit this rule and we'll change it from the right side to the bottom. And we'll go ahead and remove those other lines off to the side here so we can get a clean border applied. You'll notice we have this little space down in cell 05, and that's where our rules are colliding a little bit, which is a bit annoying. So I think we're going to have to actually go ahead and make a third rule and do a left side border. I'm going to remove one of the range references from this current rule, and we'll duplicate this border rule again, and we'll make a left version so we can get the last remaining side colored red. And that works beautifully. I think we're in pretty good shape, so let's test it out. A positive 105 makes it turn green. That's great. 1000 makes it turn green and loses the decimal places. A negative 1000 makes it turn red with no decimal places. So that all appears to be working well. You can see if I resize this, the dots collapse with the width, so that's great. And if I change the balance threshold, it's still working great. Let's format these cells as dollars just so it's easier to read. And I think we did it. Hopefully you're able to follow along and get some insights on how my mind works while I'm designing a custom spreadsheet callout. If you think of a better or potential alternative way, I'd love to read about it in the comment sections below. That's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one.